I was not like the toast of the town, but even
Right.
I recognize that like watching Saturday morning cartoons is not the thing that's preventing people from staffing up Silicon Valley engineering jobs. That's not like the chief problem in the United States.
There are trade-offs. I think about this all the time because just given the circles that I'm in and the way, I'm living in these so-called super zips or near these so-called super zips where it's like a lot of wealth and a lot of advantage and privilege. And I always think like, okay, it's great. I definitely, you could turn any kid into the mathlete who never does a sleepover, who's only, doing practice tests and follows the Vivek plan to become the number one engineer. And you know what? You'd wind up with somebody who's probably not a leader. Because actual leaders who people want to be around and want to elect and want to follow have social skills.
As we're having more conversations about West Village girls, LA girls, New York girls, Miami girls, these are all the metropolitan cities. But I think one thing that a lot of people might not understand is this concept of a super zip. So I just want to explain very briefly what a super zip is. Super zips are America's elite postal codes. Here's an introduction to the concept. The term super zip refers to the highest ranking zip codes in the United States when measured by a combination of household income and educational attainment. It was popularized by journalist and political scientist Charles Murray in Coming Apart: The State of White America from the 1960s to 2010. In his analysis, Murray identified the zip codes where the country's most educated and wealthiest residents cluster, areas that, in his view, represent a kind of American elite enclave. The criteria for a super zip. Super zips are ranked on a composite scale from 0 to 99, where 99 represents the highest possible combined score of median household income and the percentage of adults with college or advanced degrees. The very top score in the 95 to 99 range are the super zips. These are not just rich neighborhoods. They are rich and highly educated neighborhoods. Geographic concentration. Super zips are not evenly distributed across the United States. They cluster heavily in major metropolitan areas, particularly around Washington, D.C., New York City, San Francisco, Boston, Chicago, and Los Angeles. This reflects the concentration of both high-paying jobs and elite educational institutions in these regions. The D.C. example. Washington, D.C. metro area is often cited as a super zip capital. Neighborhoods in Northern Virginia like McLean and Great Falls, and Maryland like Bethesda and Potomac regularly score at the top of the index. These areas are home to political power players, corporate executives, and professionals with advanced degrees. Education as a gatekeeper. In super zips, education is not just a personal achievement, it's a community standard. The vast majority of adults in these areas have at least a bachelor's degree, and many have graduate or professional degrees. This high educational attainment drives access to high-paying jobs, reinforcing the wealth cycle that keeps these zip codes exclusive. Wealth beyond income. While median household income in a super zip is typically far above the national average, often well into the six figures, wealth in these areas also comes from assets like investments, real estate, and inherited property. It's common for residents to have generational wealth, which compounds the exclusivity of these neighborhoods. Housing barriers. Real estate in super zips is among the most expensive in the nation. Multi-million-dollar homes are common, and zoning laws often restrict the construction of affordable housing. This creates a barrier to entry for anyone who isn't already wealthy, further cementing the socioeconomic homogeneity of these areas. The social bubble effect. One of Murray's key arguments is that the super zip residents often live in a cultural bubble, surrounded by people with similar educational backgrounds, incomes, and lifestyles. They have limited daily contact with Americans from different socioeconomic backgrounds, and this can shape political views, cultural tastes, and even parenting styles. The parenting culture of super zips. Parents in super zips often follow an intensive parenting model, high investment in children's education, extracurriculars, and cultural exposure. From elite private schools to competitive sports clubs, the expectation is that children will continue the family's socioeconomic trajectory. Political leanings. Super zips tend to lean politically liberal in coastal cities and politically moderate to conservative in certain affluent suburbs. Regardless of political affiliation, however, they often share an interest in policies that protect property values, educational quality, and local control over zoning. The criticism of super zips. Critics argue that super zips reinforce economic inequality by hoarding resources like elite schools, safe neighborhoods, and political influence within a small, closed circle. They also highlight how zoning laws and educational barriers make upward mobility into these areas nearly impossible for the average American. The psychological divide. Living in a super zip often comes with a heightened sense of security, access, and opportunity, but also pressure. Residents may experience the unspoken competition of keeping up with high-achieving peers, maintaining certain lifestyles, and ensuring their children attend elite colleges. This creates a form of socioeconomic peer pressure unique to elite enclaves. Digital era impacts. The rise of remote work has not significantly diminished the power of super zips. If anything, it has reinforced them. High-income professionals who can work from anywhere often still choose to live in these super zip codes because of their schools, amenities, and social networks. The physical proximity to other elite families remains a status marker. Conclusion: the new American aristocracy. Super zips represent more than just expensive neighborhoods. They are modern-day American aristocratic enclaves where wealth and education intersect to create self-reinforcing cycles of privilege. They shape politics, culture, and the economy in outsized ways, while remaining largely inaccessible to the majority of Americans. Understanding them is key to understanding how inequality is maintained and why social mobility often feels like an uphill climb. If you have not seen the talk by Charles Murray, Coming Apart, or if you don't know what the bell curve is, there are a few talks I will link in the description box. Please go watch those and read those books. Thanks. Hello, my name is Olivia. Welcome to my channel. I like to sit around at coffee shops or at the beach and talk shit. I talk about women's issues, feminism, relationships, but mostly being a Black woman in America and how to survive that. Politically, I'm moderate, even though that seems hard for people to believe. I'm very conservative on issues like immigration, very liberal on other issues like feminism and abortion. Thanks for being here.